Hello, welcome back. Today this is the second part of chapter 8, which deals with social media information systems. And so now we're going to look at how does social media increase your capital. And so when we speak of capital, we're talking about the investments that you're going to make for future profit. So what does it take in order to get things going so you can sell something or provide something so you can generate more revenue. So the different types of business capital, we have physical capital, and that's used to produce goods and services. So you're probably familiar with these sort of things, factories, machines, and so on. We have human capital, and that is you want what people know and the skills that they need to have, and so you're going to have to invest in your employees in order for them to get training and know the certain type of skills in order to do their job the best they can. Then we have social capital, and that relates to social relations with um, the expectations in the marketplace. And so, as you build those relationships, because you have them, are going to return some kind of um, monies back to the organization, hopefully. So you're investing in that social relationship through, say, social media. So with that social media, it's going to help you benefit different types of people. If you're providing different types of information, then it's going to provide opportunities, some alternatives, um, and other factors that are important to people personally and professionally. You're also going to be able to use your social media to influence decision makers and peers. And so, think about how Facebook has done that, how Twitter has done that. We've just come through an election again, and so that has been influenced by social media. There was even, the use of bots to follow people, and then just the number of followers influences people's decisions based on the different types of comments and stories that are being put out there on social media. Also, another way of thinking about this and using social media is how does social media give you credibility or social credentials? And so being linked to a network um, of, say, highly regarded contacts can also influence your social credibility. So you think about what LinkedIn does. So LinkedIn, you try and build a big social network for yourself, and the types of people that you have available to you that are linked to you also gives you credibility. I know for me personally, I haven't made that much of an effort to do a LinkedIn account and set that up and really work it. I'm not looking to move on to another position. And so if I were, I would probably spend more time. That being said, you being in the early parts of your career would benefit from having a good LinkedIn account and be careful about the type of people that you are allowing to be part of your LinkedIn account. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of companies are using social media to hire and to recruit, so they may be looking at your account for that. But I also remember that several years ago, they were talking about how if you have people that are in your LinkedIn account that, have gotten bad credit scores, that would also bring down your credit score with the ratings companies. So, be careful about who you're putting into your social networks. If you put a bunch of people in there that have bad credit, then the people that are looking at you, banks and whatnot, will think you're probably going to be a risk as well. And so you're likely to have a lower credit score than someone who has been associating with people with high credit scores. So again, be careful what you're doing with your social media accounts. And so that ties in perfectly to this last one that says, this last bullet here, understand what social capital is and why it's valuable, and how you can benefit from it or how you can hurt from it. And so if you think of it from your business standpoint, if you do things inappropriately, and it can actually hurt you if you're going to be involved in social media. And so to drive that point home a little bit more is, again, this is a network, and so by adding more friends, you're strengthening relationships, you're adding value. Again, the more people you have, the more valuable your network is. And so somebody who's looking at you, if you've got 300 or 400 friends on LinkedIn, they may find that that's a very large network, and if they're all of certain caliber, then that puts you into that area as well. And that may be the type of person they want to associate with or link with. Now you can also measure your social networking capital online. There's different companies. One company here is called clout.com. Right. So the higher score, the more you might get more people to join you. And so how do businesses use social networks to add value? Again, they'll have a presence on these type of social network sites. They'll want to get their customers and people that are interested in their products or services to leave comments. But you also have to realize that as people leave those comments, what if they're negative comments? Then how are you going to deal with those? And so the risk is that you get excessively critical feedback that might go viral, and that could damage you even more and be hard to overcome. And so here we have an example of just how that influence might work for a small business. So we have a wedding photographer's Facebook. They have their initial social network, and then how those users are in other social networks, and then how that information can spread. Now, all of a sudden, if somebody here decides to say, oh, they took bad pictures, then that goes here, and that'll spread to this network, and that will spread, and that could be spread back. And so, again, you need to be careful of those critical comments and be able to manage those. Now, you can use social networks to increase the strength of your relationship between the people that are in your community. And so, when you're increasing that relationship or strengthening it, then hopefully they will do something that will benefit your organization, like doing a positive review, posting a picture using your product or service, or tweet about something that you've got coming up. And so you're using people in your network in order to help you promote your product or service to get the word out. And so once you start down this path, it's like positive motivation. You cannot just stop or it will die. And so you got to continue to interact with your community. And that will continue to strengthen those relationships. And so now, we're going to start having to hire people that's their primary job, is to do social media and to strengthen those relationships with the people that are part of your social media network. So as you think about social media and social networks, you need to think about how do you connect to more resources. And so there's a formula you can use in terms of what your social capital might be, and that's the number of relationships you have times the relationship strength times the entity resources. So you need to think about what are those entity resources. That's what makes it valuable for your network. If you have a huge network of people with few resources, then that's less valuable than a smaller network when the other people have substantial resources. And so those resources have to be relevant. So you want to connect with people that can buy your product, say, that can get the information out that there are actually, you've got people in there that have a um, reputation in other networks in order for, say, blogging, and they can get that word out, and people pay attention to their name, and that, they rely on that person to tell them accurate information, and so that's a valuable resource, and that's a strong relationship. And those are the sort of things that you need to think about and go after with social media. So look at these YouTube channels for generating revenue. Typically, the more views you get, the more the content creator gets. And so look at these views in terms of, okay, yeah, they got the most views here out of all of them. Did they get the most earnings? But then look at these different types of food and cooking channels. Charlie's Crafty Kitchen, 29.1, their monthly earnings. Clearly, they're not getting as many views as the types of channels that are listed up here. But what it is their community of people have more resources, so they can buy more. So that makes it a better network in terms of capital. The next question to answer from this chapter is, how do some companies earn revenue from social media? So one is a company that is a hyper-social organization. They use social media to look at interactions with their customers, their employees, and any partners. Right? So as a business student, you need to realize nothing is really free. And so you're having to pay for stuff somehow. And so think about this idea that if you're not paying, then you're the product. And what we mean by that is in terms of you're actually looking at advertising that's on the screen based on this social media. And so somehow an organization who's using social media has to monetize their site. That is, they have to generate revenue in order to pay for this content that they're putting out there, or hiring somebody that posts these um, tweets or blogs or text on Facebook. Somebody's got to pay for that. Nothing is free. And so the way you monetize a site is there's some kind of advertising. The advertising comes up, and then there's some sort of pay per click. It used to be that you could get paid if you threw up a ad on the screen, a banner, if you will, on the side, and then you would get paid by the number of impressions. Well, and an impression is just having that banner or ad come up on the side. So every 1,000 times you might get a nickel. And so the more times you can show it, the more you could get paid. Well, that wasn't generating any revenue for companies, and companies were saying, well, I don't want to be paying just for people to be seeing it. I need them to click on that ad and actually come to my website. So now they get paid by a pay per click. And because of our tracking has gotten better, we can also track that customer and determine whether they bought things or not based on having come from a certain ad. Now, we may not know exactly who the customer is, but we know that having that ad out there, they clicked on it, and so many of them bought our product. And because of that, we can actually pay a percentage back to the affiliate advertiser. And I know that's not on the screen right now, but there are affiliate networks out there where you could earn money by having advertising on your sites. And there's some other ways that you can generate revenue is that you can offer a site out there for free, and then if they'll pay for an upgrade, uh, then you're making money on them paying for the upgrade. So a lot of the newspapers have done that, the ones that have stayed in business. You might see that with the Wall Street Journal or the Washington Post, where they'll let you see certain content, but if you want to see any more, you got to pay to become a member or pay to actually look at that article. And then you can also get these through your actual sales of things that you're doing. If you're a nonprofit, you might want to also look at how you increase your donations. But somehow you've got to be able to generate revenue to pay for this infrastructure that you're putting in place in order to do your social media. So just to give you an idea of how valuable online ad revenue is think about how many mobile devices that are out there now. It's projected to be about 10 billion by 2018. And so there's been a huge amount of traffic that has increased from mobile devices. And so now for web development, mobile device development takes precedence over desktop development. That is, you want to develop for your mobile devices first, then let that go to your desktops because there's so much potential out there. Um, think about the click-through rate, and the click-through rate is, they're actually clicking and then going to the website. Smartphones is about 4%, and for desktop PCs about 2.4%. So there's a huge amount of revenue that can be made by going to your development and having it there so people can see it on their smartphones. Now, that may not seem like a lot, that click-through rate, but think about out of 10 billion potential customers, that difference of 2% is a lot. Another thing you need to think about is, did you convert that user or not? And when we talk about that, you come up with something called a conversion rate. And so conversion rate means I want to drive that user to a particular site or page and have them do something. And that do something is usually I want them to buy something. I want them to sign in and leave their name, contact information, or I want them to download something. And so if they do the items that you were thinking about when you're developing your site, that's called a conversion. Now, how many times I can get people to do that, I come up with a rate. What's my conversion rate? So marketers are always looking at that, thinking about different ways to market their products or services. And so they will actually test different pictures, wording, and stuff to see if that will increase the conversion rate or not. So just another little piece of information. Um, Facebook made 95% of its first quarter earnings in 2015 through advertising. And so that first quarter earning was $3.5 billion. Right? Twitter made about 90% from advertising, which was about $436 million in 2015. So there's a huge amount of money to be made using advertising as a way to monetize your site or monetize your social media information system. Now you can also increase your visibility by paying search engines to have your site listed at the top. That's called a paid search. Once that happens, you'll get displays or banner ads that can come up because people will see that. You can also do AdSense and AdAware, or AdWord rather. Um, AdWord allows you to bid on certain words that people might be searching on, and if that comes up, then your advertisement shows up on the screen. and you would pay to have that advertising there. Then you want to be able to check and say, okay, what's the pay-per-click or the click-through rate? If they're clicking on that and actually coming to your site, where can you drive them to get them to do something so you can convert them? That's also done with digital video ads. So you can have pay for that to come up in certain programs that people are watching, if it's YouTube or they're playing a game or something like that. Problem, though, you may run into is that if people are using some kind of ad blocking software, they may not see that advertising. So you got to kind of think of ways to overcome that as well. And so here's a diagram of mobile ad spending um, in millions of dollars, I believe. And so you need to realize that mobile users click ads more often and then therefore generate more revenue than desktop users. And so from there, you need to be able to develop websites that are going to give that mobile user a good experience and that you can get actual clicks on your advertising and that you can do the conversions. But you can see how the ad spending has been going and how it's projected to increase. So question number 5 is, how can organizations address their security concerns for social media? So you're going to need to come up with a policy and make sure your employees know what that policy is. And you may want to look at other companies' social media policies. And so if we look at Intel's policy, they have a disclose, protect, and then common sense in terms of using social media and getting connected on the internet. Related to this security is also managing your risk. And so you have a risk of users putting out content that didn't come from the company and wasn't approved by the company. And that's usually called user-generated content. So here at WKU, we have certain logos that are approved by the university that we can use. We cannot just put out any kind of content that we want. It has to be pre-approved before it actually gets out to end users. So you're going to need some kind of policy similar to that as well. There's also problems from external sources, people that are posting on your website. You have these people that might just, feel like it might be funny to put some kind of contribution out there that's inappropriate or makes fun of certain things about your company and so on. You also have to manage what are you going to do about unfavorable reviews. Typically, you shouldn't just erase those. You need to address those. A lot of times I see what companies will do is they will contact the person that posted something and ask them how they can make this better or try and fix the problem, and then hopefully then they will post something how you responded to them and how the problem was fixed. um, you also have problems if you have a bunch of people that are wanting to leave the company and they put out negative information. I wouldn't say incorrect information, but negative information about your company. How are you going to handle that? And so to put into terms again, when you're responding to those social media responses, you can leave it and you can delete it. I wouldn't just delete it. That'll cause problems, even more problems. Um, you probably need to respond to it in some way, but you don't need to do it in a negative way. And so think about this general rule here. It says if you wrestle with the pig, you'll get dirty and the pig will enjoy it. So if somebody's trying to bait you by posting something inappropriate on your website or your social media site, you don't want to just have an argument in that media, because the other person will probably, that's what they want you to do, and then that just reflects bad upon you and your company. Then you have internal risk from social media. Um, that you've got employees that you need to monitor, make sure they're not getting access to information that they don't need to have access to. Um, there's also this flip side in terms of employees out there always doing social media, and so then they're not as productive inside of your company. They're not doing the things you need them to be doing. Um, they could also leak information that would give others access to your organizational resources. So you actually have to monitor what social media things your employees are doing. So, an example might be that you've got an employee that's telling everybody when their birthday is. And so somebody sees that, and now that can be used to impersonate them, steal their identity, and trying to get into your company by knowing that piece of information. So they may be saying things out there that they don't think is important, but it gives other people enough information about them that they can use to try and get into your company's network. Continuing on with that, you also have some liability when those companies are using social media. There could be some sexual harassment liability that you may not have had if you weren't using social media. They could leak confidential information about your products. You see this every once in a while with, say, iPhones when they're coming out with the next generation. And I'm not for sure that's not just a marketing ploy, but it could be, a problem if somebody's got one of these new advanced prototypes and they're putting it out there on the internet and you don't know who. And so that could put you at a strategic disadvantage. And when we talk about reduced employee productivity because they're on social networking site, here's some research findings that about 64% of employees visit non-work related websites each day. So the question for you is, how long are they spending on these sites? And so we have other places they're going: Tumblr, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. And I think Snapchat is becoming even more popular. And so you may see for the next campaign for voting that you're going to see a lot more of these people running for office using Snapchat. They're like mini advertisements that you can get out to a bunch of people, and you're getting them out to the people that want to view them. And the last question is where's social media taking you? And so we have these new mobile devices, especially the smartphones, and we have easy access to cloud computing and dynamic virtualization now. And so people are able to do more of their own social media. There'll be more different types of applications that are being developed. And so there'll be even more and more for you to manage and think about how you can use in your business. There's also this bring your own device policy, which can be a big problem for large organizations that allow for this. And so you're allowing people to bring their devices into their workplace and use those as part of their workplace, which means now you have to worry about the security on those devices. What are people emailing and sending out? Because then that may reflect that that's part of your organization and you take on that liability. It also means you have to provide support for those devices. And so you'll have to have experts not only in iPads, but other kinds of tablets, other types of PCs, other types of smartphones. Are they an Android phone? Are they an iPhone? What operating system are they using? Is it a Samsung phone? It just goes on, and you open yourselves up to a lot of different types of support, which it can be costly. Instead of supporting one standard device like it's normally been done, if you allow this bring your own device to work policy, then you've got a bunch of different issues to worry about. So finally, what this means in the end is, in terms of where social media is taking us, is that you need to be thinking about how non-routine cognitive skills are important in terms of how your employees are thinking, how they're going to be thinking about using social media and how it can give you a strategic advantage in your organization. And so that ends this chapter on social media information systems.